those are operational questions. From where I sit and from Kenya here, I can't tell you what went on. I can only say what I read about, that the UN peacekeeping mission in Southern Sudan at some point was unable or unwilling or failed to protect civilians from harm, which was at the core of their mandate. And because of that, then the commander, who happens to be a Kenyan, was relieved of his command duties. And you know what happened then? Subsequent to that, the President of the Republic of Kenya said he was going to recall the troops, the Kenyan contingent, which he has proceeded to do. And then what follows is the politics. You see, there are many ways of looking at this. One, once you've contributed your troops, then you've surrendered them, literally, to the UN. And they are under the UN command. So all administrative and command issues are with the UN. Meaning the UN, just as they will pay them allowances, feed them and do all things to them, give them medical care, they will also be in charge of operations. And that will include relieving a commander of his duties if, in their view, as the UN, he has not performed. That's one way of looking at it. And if that happens, as a contributing nation, surely you can't see that as an indictment of the nation, unless the kind of activities they have engaged in, for which they are being removed, is such as they would bring shame to the country. I have in mind things like the charcoal trade that's been talked about in Kismayo with our troops in Somalia, about sugar trade and so on. Unless there is such activities which bring shame to the country. Really, as a country, we are being told one of your officers whom you have given us is inept and has not been able to perform. And for that reason, we are removing him. That shouldn't bother you as a country. That is one way of looking at it. But people have ego. There are egos. Perhaps Kenya failed, it was slighted. But then there are also people who are looking at it in terms of, look here, there are politics in Southern Sudan. And Kenya is involved in this politics. So this is just part of that politics, that Kenya is taking sides. So you can't know which. You see, that's where we start. When you steal, we steal. The lawyers spring from nowhere and say, "This is a man, you are targeting our man, you are finishing him." And when he was eating alone, you see? So I think we are now taking it to an international stage. When no one of us has misbehaved, we come to his protection. How many Kenyans have really tried to interrogate what the UN said about these men whom they sacked? How many Kenyans who are commenting on these issues? I'm not talking about the president. The president must be informed. He must have been briefed. But I'm just talking about Kenyans, you and I. How many of us know exactly what this man is supposed to have done or failed to do? His sins of omission and commission. So I think as Kenyans, sometimes we need to engage properly. But I think we must also give the president the benefit of doubt. As a commander-in-chief, he must have been briefed. Except I doubt the way to go about it was to go public, and you are annoyed and you say, let them come. No, they could still come without you making noise. They could still come without you talking in public. You could engage at the UN level and tell them, if this is what you are doing to us, we have given you troops. We are sacrificing Kenyan lives on behalf of the UN and on behalf of the people of Southern Sudan. Then the thank you you give us is to embarrass us by sacking one of our best generals. Then we will not do business with. That you can do diplomatically. So that we can just see our troops coming back. We think it's normal. That I think is my take. Uhuru Kenyatta is a commander-in-chief. As commander-in-chief and as president of the Republic of Kenya, under Article 240 of the Constitution, he has the power to take these people to wherever they are. and I think the power to recall them. But again, you cannot fault those who are faulting the move, like the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. Because then when our forces are outside this country, and we feel for some reason they ought not to be there, as Kenyans we can speak. I'm one of those people who say we shouldn't be in Somalia, for example. So Raila can also question why Uhuru took the decision he took, why he made that decision, as a Kenyan, as a political leader. Do remember, Operation Linda Inchi was launched when Raila was Prime Minister. In a government that was Nusumkate, they called it. In a government where there must have been consultation between the Prime Minister and the President for us to send our troops to Somalia. So what Raila is saying, from his thinking and estimation, the troops have done their bit. We can't be in Somalia forever. So it's not like these two are related. That he was part of sending the troops to Somalia. And today he's saying that the troops have done their jobs. The Kenyan force in Somalia was not an occupation force. That force ought to come back home. He has a point, I support it myself. When it comes to Southern Sudan, he believes that we seem to be rewarding ineptitude. That if the UN has indicted a particular individual, and that individual is Kenyan, we shouldn't be getting angry and removing our troops just because one of our persons didn't do the job he was supposed to do. And if he did it, he didn't do it well. I think that's the angle Raila is taking. In other words, we should be sending signals to our soldiers, whom we love so much, who have given us a good name international. We've been in many peacekeeping missions in the Kenyan troop, you know? So I think what Raila is saying is, let's not be seen to be protecting somebody who failed to do his duties. Because we want our soldiers, when they go outside there, we want them to be good ambassadors. So if one of them is a rotten apple and has been identified by the international community, the UN, let's not support that. Let our troops remain there, and let this man come back home and we tell him, look here, you have ashamed us. Don't do this. Can you please reform? You are a good Kenyan. And other commanders from this country, when they are given international assignment, will learn from this man that when you go to Kismayu, don't go and sell charcoal. When you go to Sudan, Southern Sudan, do your job for which you are sent. We seem to be engaged in what I would call a reverse gear. We seem to be disengaging from the international community. Look here, our move to pull out of ICC, followed shortly by this South Sudan thing, would tend to make people see us as not wanting to be part of the international community, as running away from the international community, as running away from the UN. So this is the most immediate implication, that we may not be held in good light by the international community, especially the UN and other civilized countries. So I think, much as it might have been bad, indeed if it was bad, the president ought to have engaged in a diplomatic manner. Because now the way the international community is viewing us, it's like people are moving out of ICC. And now they are pulling their troops from Southern Sudan. Who knows what next they will do? That is the immediate implication. But it also creates room for politics. And we are going into an election next year. So the South Sudan issue then becomes an agenda in the political arrangement